Sean Chakowski.
Winnie Visco.
So Money and I were thinking about what to talk about. We really don't have a solid topic, but the word that came up to me, I said, all right, I'm going to throw it out there. Let's talk about judgment and
Yeah.
how that affects what we do. Um, I'll go with where I went with it. I've talked to people, I could be sitting next to them and having a conversation and kind of fluid, right? Then if I say to them, well, this is an interview, right? Totally changes the energy of the engagement. I also, on a personal note, I'm going to do this more on the receiving judgment. I know sometimes I have private practice and then I have other responsibilities where I work for underneath other people. And sometimes when I present, right, I have a little bit more of, I think, more authenticity when I don't feel like I'm being judged. And then sometimes I can realize sometimes I get a little stymied if I feel like, okay, they're evaluating me, they're judging me. And then on the flip side, where I wanted to talk is that when we kind of start to recognize when we are judging ourselves, how that can, when we understand that and work with that, sometimes we can enrich our experiences if we remove that judgment piece from our experience. So
So
I
good. I mean, yeah, so I'm thinking you're kind of thinking like worrying about other people's judgment, but also judging ourselves for whatever. And also to add to that is like we also are judging others, right? So that's kind of might be where we get concerned about other people judging us because we know that we're, or maybe we don't know, but subconsciously know that we're judging other people as well.
right. So I did some training that where judgment comes up is to listen not judgmentally. So this is kind of where um where we try to be trained. So let me maybe we I want to where we're going with this. I think it is a component of being conscious. So that was when we try to assist people, think about this. If I really want to help support someone and they're telling me something and I'm over here going, ooh, I don't agree with that. Ooh. That can actually our engagement right there may not lead to a very safe environment because you're not creating that component or that space where you can exchange. I think it's some discipline and some mindfulness is to recognize A, when we're judging, and B, when we're being judged. And I'm gonna give you an example too. Someone I know who's almost a guru. Yeah, I won't give her name, but she was so good at working. She taught it to be non-judgmental. And I remember having some engagements and she was just so present with people when they were talking and they had things going off and like a lot of drama. And she just had this neutrality because I think that's where I wanted to share a tip. And I thought, wow, how enriching that she could align with someone because whether or not she had beliefs, she learned not to judge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we have to just be aware of our own bias, right? Like there's this unconscious bias and maybe conscious bias. And then noticing here are the thoughts that are coming up for me. So it's not really about suppressing judgmental thoughts because we can't. They're going to come up. But it's like we're recognizing them and not acting upon them and just saying, okay, I realize that that was a judgmental thought. I'm going to try to like come back to being just open and curious. And then when we're doing that ourselves, and we can't control what other people are doing, right? So other people may still be judging us, but recognizing like, I mean, I can't control your judgment and I can only just do the best that I can. And then it's important that even if I may be being judged by you, I'm going to try to not judge myself and also not to judge others. And when we kind of remain in that space of being open and curious and non-judgmental of ourselves and others, it may be that we won't be as bothered because we'll kind of put other people's judgment in perspective as well.
I agree with you. I have a video clip too that I share in some of my training. I'll just real briefly. It was a little girl with her dad, and she I think the father said, "Oh, which apple do you want?" And he gave her two apples, and the daughter took one and went, and then she took the other one, and then they had the father saying, "I can't believe she did that. She's being so selfish. She ate both apples." And then it stops, and the daughter's like, Dad, have this one. This one's sweeter. And it was so beautiful because it was clouding, his judgment was clouding the actual experience of her intention was beautiful. But sometimes and this is definitely a mindfulness thing too, because I think you can enrich your life if you understand instead of looking at things from the lens of judgment. And we all tend to do that, right? And it's probably natural to go there sometimes. And I think, my self-development, someone always said, and I think intentions is really a useful thing too. I found that helps me sometimes when I'm thinking things are good or bad, or should be this way or shouldn't be this way. Because there can be, as I said, there's could be a more expansive experience.
Exactly. Yeah, because in that example, which is so sweet, is that he made a judgment and an assumption, right? And so if he remained curious instead of judging it, like, wonder why she's biting into the two apples or whatever. Like then, yeah, like just kind of be open, and because you don't know what people are thinking. We have not walked a day in their shoes. We don't know, what their intentions are. And not to say that some people, everybody had, I mean, in this case, obviously her intention was loving, but, and sometimes people, it's not, but then it's also not for us to judge that because we don't know.
We don't know their truth, right?
Yeah. We don't know what they've been through. So, I mean, we can choose, that's a whole other conversation. I mean, if, we can always choose not to interact with them again or set boundaries, but we can do that without judgment too. Like, so it's like set boundaries, but you don't have to judge.
Right. So I want to highlight what you said, curiosity, because that is actually a coaching competency skill. So we can highlight, they teach us in coaching to be curious, that how you can dig in and actually create more space with someone by putting on that curiosity hat. And I want to tie this into the last piece, because I think you and I had some additional training about cultural humility. And I think my big takeaway from there, they were talking, let me give you an example of, I think they were talking about, it was more in a mental health range. And like, for example, Native Americans, I have relatives that are Native American, and they have actually traditions where they do vision quests, right? So they look and they analyze their dreams. Sometimes they fast, they don't eat, and look for their spirit guides. Now, if we took this and went into Western medicine and explained to a doctor that I had visions and talked to my spirit guide and they didn't understand our cultural background, they could make assumptions and judgments that may not serve. So that's why I think it kind of ties in how relevant this can be if we kind of tune in and learning to be a little bit non-judgmental. And I love the part that you said, don't assume and be curious.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, because the judgment goes in with the bias too, like that we have, like conscious or unconscious, but making it conscious. And I mean, we can't help the bias. Like, it's not making it go away. It's just recognizing it's there and not acting on it. Like, that's the difference.
And just for time's sake, because I know we don't want to spend too much time, I want to say on the receiving side, have you ever been with someone and realized they're not judging, they're accepting? It is such a beautiful thing to receive. And if we can hold on to that, I remember too, sometimes I was struggling and I'm like, oh, what did I do? And they were so like, it's, so neutral about it. It was a gift. And I think we even have to learn that for ourselves. We didn't get into this in our conversation, but I've had clients that are very hard judges on themselves. It's some of that compassion and self-acceptance piece too.
Yeah, self-compassion, self-acceptance. Yeah, definitely.
Anything you want to add? I know we're
No, I think that's good. I think we know that in the interest of time, we can end the conversation there.
We're always here to extend the conversation if needed. So signing off for today. Thanks for the conversation.